You know what time it is. And ironically, that landed in my lap. Hi. We are back with Storytime with Chris. Like I always say, you don't have to watch these videos when they go live. You're more than welcome to watch these videos in your downtime, nap time, max relax and chillaxing time, in between time, mean time, scheme time, CP time, study time, break time, any time that you want to hear a highly animated voice bring you wonderful stories of magic, fantasy, science fiction, adventure, and many, many more in between. And no, I'm okay. I just have a lot of thoughts right now. But I'm glad to be here. Lots of thoughts. But it's okay. It's okay to have a jumble of labyrinthian thoughts coursing through your mind, children. It's okay to be overwhelmed by certain things. But the important thing to do is to express them and not repress them. And to do so healthily and respectfully. Today's been a good day. I went to work today and then I was able to get out at a decent time and went to the gym and went to House of Ravenwood. Shout out to House of Ravenwood. I love you all. Found a new companion. Oh, gosh. Oh, gracious. Oh, that's terrible. Oh, never mind. It just automatically... I didn't realize it does that. Well, you can't see it, but this is my new walking stick now. I'm going to learn how to whittle and wood burn to make it personal for me, and I just happened to see it at the store, and I happened to get it, and it called to me, and here it is. And I have not given it a name yet, but I probably will figure it out by the end of the day. Yeah, for those who've been checking up on me and messaging me, I really appreciate you. Like I said, I'm glad to be here. I just have a lot of thoughts at the moment. But without further ado, let's go ahead and begin, because you did not here to hear me blather. You came to hear a story. Now, the last time we were... Oh, gracious. Good God, I can't see anything. The perils of eyeglasses, which I'm more than likely going to lose my eyesight fairly early in life. I'd say I give it to my 70s, maybe late 60s, because my left eye is just terrible. And no, I didn't stare directly at the eclipse, so don't even put that energy out there. Yeah, let's go ahead and begin. Last time we were here, Prince Jen and Mafu had landed in a small village ran by a lord named Cha Wei, and they were asking him for assistance to get back to their personal guard. But unfortunately, considering that the man is a man of wealth and leaves his people in poverty and has a bit of cowardice, he is not willing to help, but he has sent one of his servants, a beautiful young flute player named Voy Jing Moon, and she's been very integral in helping Prince Jen and Mafu return to Li Kuang and his army. But unfortunately, the army and General Li Kuang is nowhere to be seen. So let's go ahead and get started. Chapter 5. The Tale of the Warrior's Saddle. Honorable General Li Kuang had never lacked in courage or failed in duty. Among themselves, his men called him Broken Face because of all the battle scars crisscrossing his cheeks and brow. They were devoted to him, though, and would have followed him to the ends of the earth. Now on this journey to Tianquo, Li Kuang had vowed to guard his prince with his life. Uncomfortable at the young lord's decision to part from his escort even for an hour, Li Kuang watched, frowning as the carriage turned off into the narrow lane. Li Kuang thought first off galloping after him. But Prince Jin had ordered Li Kuang to wait, and so he did. Telling himself that his unease was groundless, that no harm could befall the prince in such a brief period of time, Li Kuang ordered his men to stand to their arms while he turned his attention to the saddle he had undertaken to mend. As he worked, Li Kuang marveled at the craftsmanship given to the making of the saddle. Intricate patterns had been tooled into the leather, itself soft and smooth as silk. The stirrups and the bit were of burnished gold, which is actually a very pretty saddle. "This truly is a gift fit for a king," Li Kuang said. "Never have I seen anything to match it." Most astonishing to Li Kuang, however, was not its excellence, but its lightness. Finishing his tasks easily and quickly, he now found the saddle and all its harness weighed next to nothing. "No more than a butterfly," he exclaimed, "less than a feather." The more he marveled, the more he yearned to try it out for himself. "Such a saddle will never again come into my hands," Li Kuang thought. "Still, it would be improper for me to use it what it is meant as an offering to a mighty monarch." Because if you remember from Chapter 2, Prince Jen left with 7 gifts to give to Huan Ming, who is the monarch and king of the land of Tianquo. Just keep in mind, this is ancient China, so a lot of the provinces and names are going to be familiar and some are fictionalized, so just bear with me. Let's see. While he stood, chin in hand, admiring the saddle, his roan mare, Autumn Dew, trotted to his side. She was the most faithful and obedient of steeds, answering to Li Kuang's lightest touch on the reins, to his smallest gesture or softest word of command. "And you," said Li Kuang, stroking her high-arching neck, "you have long gone heavily burdened and carried me, my weapons, and my armor without complaint. Would it not be a pleasure for you to feel the comfort of such a fine harness?" Autumn Dew nuzzled the saddle, then whickered and tossed her head. "You admired it as much as I do," Li Kuang said, smiling wistfully, "but it is destined for the great Huan Ming, and too magnificent for any of lower station." About to put it carefully aside, Li Kuang hesitated a moment. "This is a piece of ancient workmanship," he said. "Who made it and for whom? I do not know, but in all these years many must have written it. And they could not have been every one a king. What difference could one rider make?" Nevertheless, he told himself that as long as it was in his charge, he would not meddle with it. Still, he could not keep from running a hand over the saddle, which grew more beautiful the more he looked at it. "Once given to Huan Ming, what then?" Li Kuang said. "No doubt it will be locked in his treasure house. Huan Ming may well have a dozen others more splendid than this, and it would mean nothing to him. What a waste if it were merely stored away to gather dust." But that, Li Kuang told himself, did not concern him. What Huan Ming chose to do with the gift was a matter for the king's own judgment. He turned away, hoping that Prince Yen would soon come back so they could set off again, and Li Kuang could rid his mind of tempting thoughts. "One thing troubles me," Li Kuang said. "Suppose Huan Ming does not store it away, but makes use of it. How can I be sure it is well mended? How do I know the repairs will hold? Suppose, for example," Li Kuang went on, "Huan Ming rides to the hunt, but if the saddle gives way and he falls, he might break a limb or even be killed. That would be my fault." Satisfied that he understood his responsibility and obligation, he unharnessed Autumn Dew and replaced her saddle with a gift for Huan Ming. The mare pranced and curveted with pleasure, and it gladdened Li Kuang's heart to see how handsome his beloved steed looked. All the harness leather seemed firmly in place. "Even so," Li Kuang said, "nothing is proved without practice. If there is any risk, I must be the one to take it. I must seat myself and ride a few moments. Only then will I be certain. That is my duty. Afterward, I will put it away and explain to Prince Jen what I did and why and how thoroughly I completed my task." Hesitating no longer, Li Kuang mounted. No sooner was he astride than Autumn Dew reared, whinnied, and shook her mane. Then she laid back her ears and bolted like an arrow down the road. The startled Li Kuang pulled back on the reins. The usually obedient Autumn Dew only stretched into a faster gallop. Li Kuang was a skilled horseman, but he could do nothing to curb Autumn Dew. He called out to her, coaxing with every endearment, soothing, commanding, all in vain. He thought then to risk leaping from her back. He could not kick his feet free of the stirrups or lift himself out of the saddle. He waved his arms and shouted for his men to help. Li Kuang's cavalry troopers, seeing their commander's gestures, believed he was ordering them to follow. They leaped astride their horses and galloped after him. The foot soldiers likewise misunderstood. They seized their weapons and set off running as fast as their legs could carry them to catch up with their commands. The drivers of the baggage carts and supply wagons whipped up their animals. In moments, all the train of warriors and retainers was streaming down the road. The wagoners caught their breath in astonishment at the speed of their usually slow-placed horses. The pack mules sped over the ground as if their burdens weighed nothing. The foot soldiers found themselves racing without effort, their boots barely skimming the road. The wind whistled in Li Kuang's ears as Autumn Dew galloped ever more swiftly. After a little while, the mare veered sharply eastward off the road and plunged into the undergrowth. Twisting branches sprang out at Li Kuang. He flung up his arms, expecting to be swept from Autumn Dew's back. Suddenly the branches drew aside, the brambles and bushes opened before him, the undergrowth parted, and a clear pathway rose toward high mountains ahead. Li Kuang glanced back. Behind him, his warriors never slackened their pace. Still they climbed higher and higher. The time must have sped as quickly as autumn dew, for Li Kuang grew aware of the sun setting, or so he supposed, for the mountaintops, gray and bare, blazed red as rubies. Autumn dew galloped on. The mare made straight for a rocky mass towering above the neighboring peaks. At the foot of the mountain she still kept her wild course. Li Kuang saw the black mouth of a cavern. Autumn dew sped into it. Here Li Kuang was sure she must halt. A wall of stone rose just ahead. At the approach of autumn dew it split in two, and the huge slabs of stone fell open. Li Kuang was borne past these massive portals into the mountain's heart. His men followed, riders and foot soldiers alike. Once they had entered, Li Kuang heard an earth-shaking rumble as the giant slab swung shut behind him and all his troops. Li Kuang was a brave warrior, but seeing himself and his men so trapped, his courage almost faltered. Autumn dew trotted on, picking her way delicately over loose stones rattling beneath her hooves. Li Kuang could see nothing in the darkness that had swallowed him. He dropped the reins and let autumn dew go where she pleased. The mare, unhesitating, continued down long galleries and corridors. A burst of light dazzled Li Kuang. Autumn dew, he thought as his heart leaped, had found a passage outward. When his vision cleared, he knew he was still deep within the mountain. He rubbed his eyes, but still did not believe them. Stretching to a horizon wide as the world spread rich green fields, woodlands, and terraces, rivers and streams sparkled under a cloudless sky. As he looked, his amazement gave way to a sense of peace and harmony. Li Kuang's delight grew as the mare carried him down a well-paved street into a large town. Here he saw busy marketplaces, open front shops, weavers at their looms, potters at their wheels, passers-by, men and women in bright costumes, children at their games. At the sight of the train of warriors, the townsfolk ran to wave and smile, as if Li Kuang and his men had been long awaited. There now approached Li Kuang, a tall woman clad in robes of silver spun as fine as silk. Long silver tresses fell from beneath a headdress set with every kind of precious gem. Li Kuang at last found himself able to swing down from the saddle as the woman drew closer. "I am the Lady of Fearful Awakenings," she said, making a graceful gesture of welcome. Smiling, she gazed at him with eyes the color of burnished copper. "And you are the one called Broken Face Kuang?" "How do you know this?" Li Kuang murmured. "Where have I come?" "Where you have often wished to be." She beckoned for him to accompany her, indicating an unwalled building a little distance ahead. The structure was more palatal than Li Kuang had ever seen, with high-peaked, sharply curved roofs set one on top of the other, tall towers and ornamental bridges. All around were gardens filled with blossoms and orchards laden with golden fruit. Li Kuang heard bird songs and the chiming of wind bells. Li Kuang held back for a moment. "What of my men and horses, and my own steed, Autumn Dew? We have ridden hard and far." "They will be as well attended as yourself." The Lady of Fearful Awakening spoke so reassuringly that Li Kuang went happily with her. As they walked side by side, hand in hand, Li Kuang gathered from her words that she already knew of Prince Jen's journey and its purpose and the happenings that had brought Li Kuang into the mountain. How was this possible, wondered Li Kuang, and why should one so beautiful be so unfortunately named? These questions vanished from his mind as the Lady of Fearful Awakenings led him up a broad flight of steps and into a spacious chamber. The ceilings rose so high that he could not see where they ended. Shafts of sunlight filled the room and the hallways beyond, yet he barely glanced at the handsome furnishings, for a heavy weariness had come to settle over him. His eyes began closing despite himself. His legs felt leaden, and he gladly allowed the Lady of Fearful Awakenings to draw him to a couch that seemed in readiness for him. "Rest a while," the Lady of Fearful Awakening said as Li Kuang sank into the deep cushions. She covered his face with her hands. Li Kuang gratefully closed his eyes. The fatigue that overwhelmed him did not come entirely from his ride through the countryside. It was rather as if all battles had ever fought now pressed upon him. Every single marched, every league written, compressed into a single massive burden. For a time he dreamed of those past combats of hissing arrows, bloody swords, riders clashing, horses shrieking and striking out with their hooves. Cries of the wounded and dying filled his ears. The reek of old battlefields choked his nostrils. The nightmares faded. In their place arose mineral visions, sharp-edged stars of crystals, geometric shapes shifting and combining, growing like frost patterns. Mountains cleaved to reveal dark inner veins, snowflakes of garnet, the dreams a stone might dream. He awoke. The chamber had vanished. Li Kuang sat astride Autumn Dew. They were in the cavern once again. Unable to move arms or legs, he could open his eyes no more than a crack. Crystalline growths jutted like fangs around him and gave a dim greenish glow. Glancing down with difficulty as if his eyes had frozen in their sockets, he glimpsed his hands on the reins. A cry like rocks grinding together caught in his throat. Li Kuang had turned to stone. So had Autumn Dew. Li Kuang could not see them, but knew with cold certainty that his warriors shared the same fate. He tried to fathom how this had come about, hoping that by doing so he might devise a way to free his warriors from this horrible captivity. But his thoughts moved as slowly as a glacier. Time itself seemed turned to stone. He could not calculate how long he had slept or how long he had been in the cavern. He only understood how well named had been the Lady of Fearful Awakenings. Despite all, deep within his shell of stone, he sensed a constant throbbing, and he envisioned a crimson spark pulsing faintly but steadily. As long as his heart beat, he knew himself to be a living man. A tall form took shape in front of him. Li Kuang's eyes had become crystal prisms, and he saw a dozen images of an old man in a red robe.
"I have been waiting for you," Master Wu said. "You have slept. Now you must wake." "You here?" murmured Li Kuang. "Was it you who caused this?" "I caused nothing," Master Wu replied, "though from time to time I make arrangements. Had you not tried the saddle, things would have gone otherwise. Now they are what they are and what they must be. You are in Hushan, Mountain of Sorcerers." "What of Prince Jen?" Li Kuang said. "If I failed him, if I did not guard him as I vowed, let me not fail him again. How can I rejoin him?" "Prince Jen follows his own road," Master Wu said, "and must go wherever it may lead him. Your path has taken a different turning." "I accept my punishment," Li Kuang said. "The blame is mine alone. Therefore, I ask you to free my warriors. They followed me, but this was their duty, not their fault. I ask you as well to free Autumn Dew. Her place is not here. Allow her at least to return to the fields and forests and the open sky." "Broken Face Kuang," Master Wu said, "your words do you credit. You will gain merit for them. Whatever else," he added with a smile. "You do not have a heart of stone. I cannot grant your wish entirely," Master Wu continued. "That is not in my power, but in yours." "How?" Li Kuang replied. "I cannot move more from this spot than could a rock or a boulder." "Have you the will to do it?" Master Wu said. "Try." Summoning all his strength of spirit, Li Kuang discovered that indeed he could move a little, and Autumn Dew likewise, but so grindingly and agonizingly that all efforts seemed doomed to fail. Nevertheless, whatever the painful cost, he resolved to guide his faithful horse and warriors into the sunlit world of living beings. Master Wu nodded, satisfied by Li Kuang's determination, and gave him certain instructions. "Only if you are able to follow them," he added, "only then can there be any shred of hope." "Given that much," Li Kuang said, "I ask no more." Leaving Li Kuang and his stone warriors to whatever the future holds for them, we now return to Prince Jen, Voyaging Moon, and Ma Fu. How they deal with their own plight is told in the following chapter. And that is where we will end for today. Thank you all so very much. I love and appreciate you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being patient with me. I love you very much, y'all. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.